All right, what is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the Everything College Basketball Podcast, episode 192. It's a special Friday show. We kind of promised Thursday things happen. We are here on this beautiful Friday afternoon, and as you notice, if you're following along live with us on the Twitter, on the YouTube, it is just myself, Josh Burton, and it's the first time that the dynamic backcourt of myself and Coach Parrott going the duo route today. Trevor's on his way to Columbus, Ohio for the Buckeyes football game tomorrow afternoon. Peyton couldn't make it today, but Coach, first time, me and you, we got that backcourt chemistry starting to build. It's time to put some doubles up on people.
And look, my reason, I'm going to give a plug here. The reason I couldn't do yesterday, the Stratford girls volleyball team advances in the regional playoffs, 39-2. Next match will be Monday or Tuesday. So I was preoccupied watching my daughter play some volleyball.
Yeah, I mean, always important. I was doing some family stuff as well.
Good.
It was better to do it on a Friday, and we knew we needed to get a show out because this, as we're going to talk about in this quicker episode, the first weekend in general of college basketball, real games, and we have a loaded slate of some high-level action we're going to cover. We will go ahead and say, too, this upcoming Sunday for episode 193, Coach will not be in attendance with us, but Coach, there's a very special reason that you won't be able to make it if you want to go ahead and tell the people.
Yeah, thanks. I'm flying home to my hometown of Hershey, Pennsylvania tomorrow, and on Monday evening, be inducted into the Central Pennsylvania Hall of Fame. So just a great honor. I'm going to get to see a lot of my old players that helped me win the state championship at Annville in 1999. And along with family and friends as well. So we're having a big turnout Monday night. And so Sunday I've got an event to attend as well. So I'll be busy doing that stuff.
And congratulations. We are very happy for you. You sent us the message a few days ago, a week ago, whenever it was. We were very, very happy for you. Congratulations on that huge honor. Getting to go back into your area where you grew up at and all that's a really cool honor, and we're very happy for you. So no Coach Sunday, but it's for a good cause, and we can't wait to have him back on the next episode after that. But
look forward to it.
So right before we hopped on, I would say probably an hour and a half ago, 2 hours, there's some news breaking. We're not going to delve into it because we don't have full information, but if you haven't seen the stuff yet, there's, I think, alligator.org, Florida website, broke some news on Florida head coach Todd Golden that is interesting, to say the least. We'll save all of our comments once more information comes out because you guys know how we do it. We don't speculate a lot. We kind of let the due process play out, but just know that there is significant college basketball news out there right now. And once we have more information, we will comment on that just to kind of get out in front of that. You guys know how we do it. When there's more information, we will dive into it as deep as we can, but crazy times right now.
I would think Florida or Coach Golden would make a statement here too before we come back on again as well, which will shed more light on the situation.
Yeah, and like I said, it's so hard because if you, like, longtime viewers and listeners of us know, just go back a year and a half ago with the Chris Beard thing at Texas. We waited on that to play out, and then when more information came out, we gave our thoughts and opinions, but it's such a weird thing because you don't know what to say. You want to let everything play out before you make a fool of yourself. Unfortunately, too many people in media today love to be the first one to get their comment out, get their comment out there, get a hot take out there, and then information comes out and they look like idiots. We try not to do that here, but we promise you, for those who have asked or will ask, when there's more information, we will make our comments, but we kind of want the process play out. What is up, Johnny? One of our good longtime day one friends over here at ECB, one of my best friends in real life, following along live with us today. What's up? We also got our guy Connor McCabe, longtime follower here, says hello, Connor. We will talk about your Jayhawks big matchup coming up here in just a little bit, so stay tuned for that.
Great to have some people with us here on a Friday afternoon.
I know. It's kind of on short notice, too.
Yeah,
with the change of everything. So we appreciate you guys following along. Leave your comments below. We will get to them. Like I said, Connor, I think you want to tune in. We'll get to your Jayhawks here soon. But, Coach, I want to start by when we talked on Sunday, we previewed all these games, the excitement building around for opening tips on Monday. And, it didn't disappoint. You had Gonzaga looking like world beaters against Baylor. You had Texas A&M losing in an upset. You had South Carolina losing. Honestly, the SEC didn't look as great night one as we project them to be as a conference as a whole. Wasn't their best night. Georgia struggled with Tennessee Tech, ultimately got the win. Arkansas just played Wednesday night against Lipscomb. Struggled in a lot of ways for most of that game before pulling away late. We had some big ones, but I want to touch on Villanova because they played their opening game the other night against Columbia. A team, if we're being real, they should have handled easily. No offense to Columbia. Shout out to Ivy League. But, Coach, we know Villanova should have handled Columbia. Instead, they gave up a 90 spot to the Lions, and they lost by 10 on their home floor. First, I guess just your reactions to that, and we can have a larger discussion kind of surrounding the program the last couple of years.
Yeah, there's multiple things to unpack. I think you're surprised by the result, based on the names of the schools that you see, based on kind of how Villanova was last year, right? Expecting to see a different Villanova team, a more, bigger year, more expectations, get this thing going back to what the Villanova faithful and people think about. And then, they schedule a game at home on opening night that they are very confident that they're going to get off to a good start and win. And Columbia comes in there and, like you said, puts up 90 points on them and just, shocks the crap out of them. Their whole, the whole being, structure of that whole program right now is probably shaking a little bit because it's just an unexpected result. It's also just tremendous credit to Jimmy Angles in Columbia. I've been on that side of it, trying to beat, David Goliath, trying to beat the big guys, and for him to do that is just a credit to him and his program, and what an exciting night for them. But boy, there's tough questions being asked at Villanova. I know that.
Well, I mean, you look at the stats here, right? Like Villanova, 11 of 32 from the three-point line for 34%. All right, we consider 35 average or slightly under, but you forgive that. I mean, they hit 11 threes.
Yeah.
But here's a couple things that stand out in this game that I think's been emblematic of the problem of Villanova the last couple of years. You look at the turnover battle. They only had 12, which 12 is relatively low, all things considered, in a 40-minute college basketball game. But Columbia only had 8. They could only force 8 turnovers against a team with far lesser talent than them on paper. Yeah. And of the Villanova 12 turnovers, 10 of them were steals for Columbia, which obviously means live ball turnovers. When I was coaching, when I was playing, I've always been taught, and I teach my players, if you turn the ball over, throw the son of a bitch into the stands so we can at least set our defense up. Live ball turnovers are killers. And to have 12 turnovers with 10 of them being steals for Columbia, I just don't think Villanova values the basketball. It's been like that the last couple of years. I think they struggle in games to close them out. And look at this, too. Their largest lead against Columbia was 28-20 with 5:58 left to go in the first half.
Had a chance to really open it up before, yeah.
And they didn't capitalize.
No.
They don't value possessions each time down the floor. They get a little lazy with their shot selection. And it ultimately, like it has the last couple of years, come back to bite them. I mean, Eric Dixon was phenomenal. 33 points, made every one of his free throws he shot, 5 3-pointers. He was phenomenal. But you look at the rest. I mean, Jordan Longino, 14, Wooga Poplar, 16. They got the big 3 to give them a lot of contribution. But they got nothing from anybody else. And it's obviously a cause for concern for Villanova because it's the same problems repeating itself time and time again.
Yeah, so you think about, people say, well, how did Columbia get to 90, right, against them? Well, you pointed out a great stat, and that's why stats sometimes are so misleading because you as a coach, you're right, you're going to take 12 turnovers. You'll be happy with 12 almost every game you play. If you get down to 10 or 9, well, that's excellent. But if 10 of them are leading to 3-on-2s or transition threes or breakaways, because like you said, 10 of them are steals, those are 12 different turnovers. And then for you to, as an offense, to only turn it over 8 times means you're getting a shot almost every time down the floor. And so Columbia just did a great job, or Villanova did a really poor job of trying to keep that score where, 28-20 with 5:30 left and they end up with 90. That's a lot of points in a short period of time.
I mean, it's a lot, especially for a team. Again, congratulations. Columbia started the year so far 2-0. So tremendous win for them. But again, even go back to last year. Villanova got swept in the Big Five. They lost to Drexel. They lost to St. Joseph's. They lost to LaSalle. They got swept. They lost to Penn. They got swept in the Big Five, I think, for the first time, either ever or in however many decades. I remember
100 years, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's the same thing. These are teams on paper, and I know St. Joe's was pretty talented last year, but there's no reason they should have lost to Penn, LaSalle, Drexel. All of them in the same year. You're Villanova, and that leads me to the bigger point. I know it's uncomfortable because coaches and all that, but we've got to be real. Kyle Neptune, right? There was some optimism around because he was with Jay Wright as one of his top assistants for a long time there when they were winning titles and they were making the runs. Because if you honestly look at it, Villanova is one of the, top 2-3 best programs in the 2010s. I mean, 2 national titles, multiple, Big East titles, X number of 25 win seasons. Like, they were phenomenal. And Neptune was with Wright for a lot of that. So they bring him back. I know Jay Wright endorsed him and all that. But if we're being honest, he's been there a couple of years now. And I feel like the program has taken a massive step backwards. I know they came this close, if you listen to Villanova fans, for making the NCAA tournament last year. But I just feel like the program's taken a step back and obviously off to a bad start this year.
I mean, look, you're not saying it's undeniable, right? The question is, can it be fixed? How soon can it be fixed? And can Kyle get it fixed soon enough, hopefully, to not affect, his job moving forward? But, let's look back, Josh, at some of the history of this too. I think I was reading some stuff, and I've been around back to the old Big East way back when too. But think about the fall Georgetown took after John Thompson left. Think about the fall St. John's took after Louis Carnesecca left. Patino just now is finally getting it right, maybe getting it right, right? Jay Wright, they won one in 85 with Rowley, but then after he left until Jay got there, he finally turned it around. And to follow these guys is so hard. I don't care who you are, what sport it is. Kalen DeBoer, Alabama's learning app this year. Just go back in history. Following Coach Knight at Indiana, the history of that. I know Mike Davis had the one good year, but then it was for 20 years. In terms of what expectations are now. And they've had some good years. I mean, Tom Crean had some good years. I mean, coaches have good years, but it's not what it was under that guy. And if it's because of that guy, boy, it's hard. It's hard to follow them.
Well, no, and that's a great point. But you look at Kyle Neptune, he's in his third year now with Villanova. He's only been a head coach for 4 seasons, including this year. His team at Fordham went 16-16, 10 losses in the A10. First year at Villanova, 17-17, 10 losses in the Big East. Last year, 18-16, slight improvement by a game, but still 10 losses in the Big East. And they're 1-1 to start this year off, and it looks like a potential another hovering around 510 loss in conference play. And I just don't understand. And you watch some of the in-game coaching decisions as far as not getting guys on the right opportunity to shoot when they need to. And I don't think they play from behind very well. I think when a team, unfortunately, like when Columbia gets them down and the tempo needs to speed up, they tend to make bad decisions. That's where some of those 12 turnovers, 10 of them being steals, come from. I just don't think the program's getting better. And we never advocate for anybody to lose their job, and that's not what I'm doing here. But I'm saying if this goes south again, and they do end up missing the NCAA tournament again and end up with another 10-loss Big East season and another season hovering right around the 18,
it won't be acceptable.
It won't be. And they'll have to move on. They'll have to.
If those things occur, the people of Villanova and what they're used to and what they expect and what they want, plus from what I understand, what they spend on NIL, there's high expectations. And look, I know Kyle would be the first to tell you those are the expectations. Now, of course, he wouldn't advocate for him to lose his job. He'd advocate to try and make points that he's going to grow it or whatever. But there's so much season left to be played. Yes, it's not a good book. I mean, it just isn't. And but there's still 29 more to go, and there's certain, we in 2 weeks we could be talking about a Villanova 4 or 5 game winning streak, and sometimes that stuff goes away quickly. But I can understand why the microscope and that spotlight right now is shining pretty bright on the main line in Philly. I know that.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at Ken Palm, they are favored in their next 4. NJIT, St. Joe's, Virginia, Penn. That would put them at 5-1. That's a really solid record. All
If they
things
get
considered.
that won't be easy.
Then you go play Maryland on a neutral floor. Maryland looks to be decent this year. Derek Queen in his debut at college, 22-20. I mean, just unbelievable. But you get that, and then you can kind of right the ship. You got a Cincinnati team that's really good that you'll get at home December 3rd. But they got to start reeling these off. What they can't do is beat NJIT, beat St. Joe's, and then lose to Virginia and Penn. And then you got to start winning games. But Villanova, man, kind of rocky.
Yep.
Kind of a rocky program. They're go from the top of the mountain to we never know. Hey, before we move on, start previewing some of these games this week, I do want to go back real quick to our biggest game for Monday night. How good did Mark Few's Gonzaga team look? Because we all talked about it. Baylor is a good ball club. They're really good. And Gonzaga absolutely beat their ass and made them look inferior. And I know people are jumping off the Baylor ship, and we're going to talk about Baylor against Arkansas coming up tomorrow. But Baylor's not that bad. I think that's more of an indicative of how good Gonzaga is when they're at their best.
And sometimes, look, the thing gets rolling downhill, and there's nothing you can do to stop it. That's the game. And yeah, of course, Coach Drew was disappointed in his team's performance, but it's opening night. It's Gonzaga. They couldn't do anything wrong, and it just snowballed into an unbelievable performance. And geez, what an eye opener. But look, let's not overreact to Gonzaga, and let's not underreact to Baylor. It's one game. It sure was an impressive win. And man, if they're going to play like that all year, well then, I'm changing my Final Four pick. So,
yeah, I mean, just huge shout out. I was in Seattle, heavy Gonzaga crowd, of course, but just to watch them, we know how great Mark Few's offenses are. Like they're going to exploit mismatches. Like we talked about them having the size advantage, and boy, did they ever go to it and exploit that. But it wasn't only that. Baylor kept trying to double the post. And every time they did, Gonzaga, their bigs, whether it be Huff or whether it be Greg or Ike, would kick out, wide open 3 for a guy like Dusty Stromer, and they just carved them up. But defensively, this is the point I want to make on Gonzaga. If they're going to give that type of effort night in, night out on defense, because they look like the much tougher team, and that's been one of the knocks on Gonzaga over the years, is maybe you can bully them around a little bit. If they have decided to, let's get physical with teams now and let's get stuck in the mud, this is a team that could legitimately win the national championship. I was very impressed with how tough they were.
Well, you talk about, this is, Gonzaga, where are they in the last 15 years in terms of top 10 programs,
Oh, they're up there for sure. Yeah.
So this guy, Coach Few has just done an unbelievable job. And look, he just like Jay Wright at Villanova, Mark Few's not going to be there forever either. And so there's another one where it's just going to be a really, really tough one to follow whenever those, whenever he does step down or leave, and no matter who they've appointed or whatever, because of the incredible job he has done. And they are not slipping based on that performance.
Nope. So let's, opening night's behind us. Teams have already got at least one game in. Some in the mid-major, lower majors do have 2 games in, but we're in the swing of it. Tonight, a massive game. When you hear Kansas and you hear North Carolina, and the fact that they're going to play a traditional road game with North Carolina going to Allen Fieldhouse, you can call it the Roy Williams Bowl if you want it to. But, by the way, he was asked. I seen somewhere he was asked if he would be there. And he said, there ain't no way I could go into Allen Fieldhouse and cheer for the opposing team because of the respect and love he shows for Kansas folks. I think that's really cool. But if I was him, I'd still go. I think he'd get a nice pop and people would understand. But Kansas, North Carolina, two top 10 teams. Kansas #1 in our ECB poll preseason. They romped Howard to tune of a 30-point victory on opening night. Hunter Dickinson plays. They've got their full complement of players. Obviously, we talked about not everybody played against Arkansas in that exhibition. North Carolina had a scare on opening night with Elon. Yeah. Elon held their own. Carolina could never pull away until late in the game. They were able to hang 90 on them. But Carolina heading into Allen Fieldhouse for a massive clash tonight. Coach, when you look at this matchup, two historic blue bloods, two of the top 3 winningest programs of all time, all the Final Fours, all the national titles, all Americans, all that goes into it. We have a top 10 matchup between two powerhouses on a Friday night, the first weekend of college basketball.
This is what people want, right? They said we want better matchups earlier in the year. And to these coaches' credit, they're giving them to them. Look at these matchups. I mean, just incredibly, fun for the fans matchups. And again, as coaches, you can't go into the overreaction mode. And I'm sure Coach Drew didn't, and whoever wins tonight's matchup won't. To go into Allen Fieldhouse and beat Kansas, you have to play a great game, not a good game. And you have to play a great game. It doesn't matter who you are or who you have. But the good thing about Carolina is they're used to this stuff, right? It's North Carolina playing these teams in these environments, in these settings. And I think I read somewhere, does Self need one win to tie Fog Allen?
I haven't seen the official stat. That sounds right, though.
I think wins that guy's got? I think he needs one. He could tie him tonight.
Oh, that would be insane. What a way to get that.
Yeah, that's just a side kind of cool thing for him. That place is going to be nuts.
Looking at the matchups within the matchup, I mean, obviously you look at North Carolina's backcourt, where R.J. Davis, 24 points, a preseason All-American, should be right there in contention for not only All-American, ACC Player of the Year. Yeah. The dude's in like 6th year, it feels like. It feels like 10th, but he's been there a while. Experienced guy, been to a national title game against Kansas Jayhawks. 24 in opening night and 33 minutes, 3 of 11 from the three-point line. There's one thing we know about R.J. Davis is he's not gun shy to let him fly. And the good thing about that is, though, Coach, he may go 3 of 11 against Elon, but he come out and shoot 15 tonight and hit 7 of them. That's the
Bill Self's telling Bill Self's telling his team that, believe me, probably 100 times in the last 2 days.
I mean, Elliot Cadeau, we'd heard all off season.
Yeah.
Hubert Davis had talked about to the media that you won't recognize him because if you remember as a freshman last year, he couldn't really shoot. He was kind of gun shy, whatever the case may be. Hubert Davis told the media this offseason that you won't recognize him. He comes out opening night, 32 minutes, 17 points, 8 assists, looked really good. If Elliot Cadeau is going to be that type of player finally all year, paired with R.J. Davis, Carolina is going to have a tremendous backcourt. And I'm curious to see how that matches up against Kansas's backcourt when you look at a guy like Zeke Mayo who came in. You look at even a freshman like Marquise Passmore. That experience factor with Kansas being at home against the experience, but then a surging Elliot Cadeau. I think the backcourt matchup actually probably wins this game. Whoever controls the backcourt in this one.
Yeah, because, Hunter's going to be a monster. He is what he is. I think you're right. And then Cadeau, look, imagine if he has a good game tonight, which I think he will. Like I do too. I think he's going to have a good game, a really good year, and that's what's going to help Carolina. One of the reasons I thought they would really have a strong push towards the Final Four. But if he goes out and has a really good game, his confidence is just going to go through the roof. Now, if he struggles tonight, then you as a coach, you'll just blow it off. It was at Kansas, and see how he is the next 3 or 4 or 5 games. But it's exciting for those kind of side stories to see how that kid plays and handles that environment, what his confidence is like, how aggressive he is early, and and how much can North Carolina at least not let Hunter just go nuts and him be the difference in the game, because I think it will be a backcourt that decides it.
And then also the freshman coming in as a big-time 5-star freshman, Ian Jackson. He only played 12 minutes, 5 points. Typical freshman, you call him nerves, I guess. But the kid's so explosive.
Yeah,
he made a couple plays where it's just like you have to just be born with that to do some of the stuff he's able to do. And this is one of those big stages that these high-level kids thrive on. So I
Yeah.
wouldn't be surprised if we don't see some big moments. Like if North Carolina wins this game, and you told me Ian Jackson has like, let's say 16, 6, and 4 or whatever, right? And a steal to boot. I wouldn't be surprised because these are the moments that kids like that live for. And I think we could see something special from him tonight.
Yeah, and they're not scared of these moments, these kids.
No.
I mean, they are, they're so talented. They've played in so many big kind of events, moments through the travel, and some of them, whether they're in the USA basketball stuff coming through, they're just so mature. And the talent usually at some point, and a kid like that is going to shine, whether it's tonight or in game 5, game 10, at some point, he's going to become a major factor for them.
Well, on the Kansas end, we talked about, obviously, I forgot to mention DeJuan Harris, defensive stud point guard for Kansas. Right. Him on RJ Davis will be very interesting, or Cadeau. I'm curious to see how those matchups. If he goes with Cadeau, if Cadeau's more on the ball and RJ plays off the ball, but then when RJ kind of wants to dance with and create his own, is DeJuan on him as well. So I'm curious on those individual matchups. But we talked about Hunter Dickinson. I think you might as well write it down. He's good for 25 and 10 tonight, right? I think the X factor is always with Kansas is KJ Adams. You're talking about a 6'7". He's a power forward, right? A little bit undersized, but strong. Probably the biggest athlete as far as freak goes, playing above the rim, that'll be on the floor tonight. And he's a guy. The other night against Howard, I know he didn't have to do much, but in 23 minutes, he had 7 points, 4 rebounds. You want to probably a little bit more out of your veteran senior. But again, this is a type of game, we've seen it historically from him, that you look up, he's got 19 points, 13 rebounds, and 5 blocks. And I think if he plays well tonight, I don't know if North Carolina has an answer for that size. But he's going to have to defend some of that North Carolina if they go small, or Jalen Withers being an athletic freak as well, getting up and down the floor. I think they're what I'm getting at is I think both Carolina and Kansas kind of match up very similar. Both can shoot the 3 a little bit, but not great. They both hit over 11 the other in opening night games, but they're not going to particularly shoot it well. They're both kind of deep, and both have incredible backcourt. I think this is 2 evenly matched teams going head-to-head tonight.
Yeah, preseason top 10 matchup on a true road game on a Friday night, like you said. I mean, this is exactly what the college basketball world wants and needs, and hopefully there'll be a whole exciting game like it's built up to be.
Two other pieces for Kansas for their win, and we'll get predictions. Rylan Griffin, his debut for Kansas, didn't play the exhibition games. Coming in from Alabama, we know he's a knockdown shooter from his days with the Crimson Tide. 19 minutes, 5 points, 1 of 4 from the 3-point line. You got to think he's going to be better. He's going to get some more shots fall because we've seen it at Alabama. And then we talked about Zeke Mayo. Zeke Mayo, 19 was really good, but the other guy, the other transfer guard coming in from Wisconsin, AJ Stewart, 15 minutes, 5 points. He's a much better player than that, and you got to think in a moment like this is where he starts to step up. So I'm looking at some of the Kansas's role players to step up. With that being said, Coach, Carolina, Kansas, who do you got and why?
I'm going to take the home team. I think, and I just think 1 through 9, they're a little more talented as well. If you use some of those guys you mentioned that transferred in, what they've done at their previous schools, some of that's going to take a little time to mesh. Maybe they're not there yet, right? We've talked about that on the previous shows, right? The time for everything to mesh. How long does that take? But I think Kansas will win tonight, despite what Trevor's typing in there.
Yeah, obviously Trevor, like we mentioned, on his way to Columbus, Ohio, may even already be there by now. But he says in the chat, UNC wins by 5+.
That's not a biased pick, though. I mean,
you know what? I'm having a hard time with this because I do think they're so evenly matched. I think we've talked about a couple of the key players, key factors. Carolina's got to get the tempo where they want it. Kansas can run and more than willing to run, but nobody runs like Carolina traditionally. Especially the way their bigs run. Roy taught them that. Hubert's continued that. They get their bigs up and down the floor on makes, misses to keep that tempo. That's where guys like Hunter Dickinson are going to have to really sprint back in transition, or Zach Clemens when he's on the floor. I think Carolina could win transition points. And if they can win the 3-point battle and take care of the ball, I think Carolina could win. With that being said, I'm going with you, Coach. It's hard to win in Fog Allen. It's even harder to win in Fog Allen on a big game night. I don't think there's any chance that they allow North Carolina to come in and take a win. I do predict a high-scoring game, though.
Yeah,
I think this game could get up in the 90s.
I think it'll be mid to high 80s as well. Could be 90s.
So we got Kansas on a sweep, but incredible matchup. Let's move to Saturday. We have a trio of major games on Saturday we want to talk about. Let's start with the game Peyton and I will be at. We are heading to KFC Yum Center for Louisville's first big game in the Pat Kelsey era. They opened up on Monday night with a dominating win against in-state school, Morehead State, 93-45. Kelsey's teams, through exhibitions, through the first game, have looked really good, really fun, and deeper than what people may know, if we're being honest. Terrence Edwards had 12. Javon Hadley, the Colorado, transferred 15. Just really balanced scoring, Coach, in that debut. You had 5 dudes in double figures from 12 to 18 points, so very balanced scoring for a lot of guys. You had multiple guys who got on the board with at least a bucket or more. They go 11 of 36 from three-point line, so didn't shoot it particularly well, but they still hit 11 of them.
How did the big kid from USF play prior?
He was the MVP of the game on KenPom. He had 18 points. He led them in scoring.
Wow.
1 of 5 from 3. He's a better three-point shooter than what he made on Monday, but, you know, he didn't really have to make a whole lot in this game. He did have 12 rebounds in this game, 4 assists, so he did it all, 3 steals.
He is really disruptive. He's active.
Yeah.
We played him very, very well down there, and he won the game for him in the last 2 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, at 6'10", a dude like that's lanky, that can play on the perimeter. Yeah, that can play on the perimeter. And then Tennessee wins their opening night contest against Gardner-Webb. Kind of like North Carolina, it wasn't the blowout like a lot of teams had. They beat Gardner-Webb 80-64. You look at Zakai Ziegler had 13. Chaz Lanier, the North Florida transfer, led them with 18, 4 of 6 from the three-point line. But, you know, Jordan Gainey, 16, but they didn't really get a whole lot. Here's my fear with Tennessee before we start diving into this. From what I see in the exhibition game against Indiana, from what I've seen against Gardner-Webb, I feel like that Tennessee fans expected, because they got so comfortable with last year's offense revolving around Dalton Connect and all the scoring that they were able to do, that maybe they expected that this year. And I just think this is going to be a more traditional Rick Barnes volunteer team. It's going to be defense heavy. They're going to limit possessions. They're going to have scoring droughts of 4 or 5 minutes where they can't put the ball in the bucket, but they're going to rely on big-time shot making and defensive stops to win them games. And I think you're going to see a lot of games Tennessee wins in the mid-70s, low or high 60s. I just think that's how this team's going to be built. I don't think they have offensive firepower to play like they have last year.
No, they had a kind of a unicorn last year. They had one of the unique scorers and players in college basketball, and so you'll play a little different. You'll be different when you have one of those guys. And he was incredible and fun to watch. And I think they'll be back to what you just said. And very cool, exciting game for Coach Kelsey here tomorrow. Wake up, have breakfast, and 11 o'clock. Here we go. Throw it up.
Big time. And I want to touch on something real quick because you talked about Coach Kelsey. The Louisville fan base, and I wish Peyton was on, he could talk about it more. Hopefully he will Sunday. The Louisville fan base is broken. But historically, this is such a passionate, tremendous fan base. One of the top 5 in college basketball history. And, yeah, they didn't sell out like maybe in years past they would, especially with the buzz surrounding a potentially really good team and a new coach and all that. The building was 60% full, but they still got, I think they reported 12,000 in like a 20,000 seater. It's still pretty good. I mean, it's not great for Louisville historical standards, but I think the fan base has been broken. The Kenny Payne era, the stuff that went on at the end of Mac's tenure, the stuff that went on with Rick Pitino, I think the last decade has really broken the Louisville fan base. And it's going to take actually seeing it on the floor consistently for a little bit to have them get their hopes up again. And I think what you're going to see tomorrow is the Yum Center, by hook or by crook, that Yum Center is going to be at least 90% full, and they're going to get the nostalgia back. They're going to be able to buy into this team because Louisville plays such a fun brand of basketball. We talked about it with Kentucky and their offense, but Pat Kelsey's offense and the talent he's brought in, this is a fun basketball team to watch. And I think you're going to see that in full display tomorrow. And I think Louisville fans just buy into the team. I think you've got great things ahead of you. Looking at the game, Coach, I mean, we've talked about Tennessee's style. Did you have something on that?
Well, I want to piggyback with what you said. I think college basketball is better when Louisville is good. And you say that about certain blue bloods in college football and this and that. And, when Louisville's good, it's just better for the game. And it's been painful kind of for everybody, right, to kind of see. Now, the Louisville haters and the Kentucky fans are gloating and loving this. I get it, but that's what rivalries are all about. And that's why they're so fun. But, to see the energy that he has kind of pumped back into this thing in a short period of time, the players he's brought in, we talked about this last week, the system that he plays, the importance of that is such an underrated thing for kids. So, yeah, I think tomorrow that place will be rocking. If they get the win, and that'll be a big jolt for the program. But if they just play well and make it a great game and a great environment, well, then Louisville's making the right steps to get back where they want to be.
And I completely agree. And I'm with you as a lifelong Kentucky fan. I want Louisville to be good because then when Kentucky beats them, you actually beat somebody.
There you
go. Louisville, though, also I think one underrated thing about them is you look at the other night against Morehead State, 21 assists to just 5 turnovers. They value sharing the basketball and they value taking care of the basketball. I think when you look at Tennessee, it starts with their defense. They need their backcourt. They need Zakai Ziegler to be a pest. They have to get up in guys like Ryan Smith. They have to get up in some of these Louisville guards and really make them uncomfortable. Chucky Hepburn, Corin Johnson. So I think Zakai Ziegler has to get up after him. I think Tennessee's defense as a whole has to constrict this to a half-court game because Louisville wants to get out and run and shoot 35-plus threes. Make it a half-court game. Make it ugly. Be physical like Rick Barnes' teams are and kind of grind it out in the trenches and then make some shots along the way. Maybe you get Chaz Lanier to be that Dalton Connect type 25, 30-point scorer that they were hoping for. But I think, in my opinion, Coach, they've got to make this ugly.
Yeah, I think if Tennessee goes out and wins a physical, tough game, but it's a competitive, close game all the way, the Louisville fans are saying, okay, we're in there. You know what I mean? We're getting better. It's a huge stride. It's a big game. If Louisville goes out and beats them, then you're going to have a huge kind of surge of momentum, within the program. And by the way, I'm with Trevor on there. I think Louisville's going to beat them. I'm going to take Louisville. I'm caught up, and I'm going to drink the Kool-Aid here. The Yum Center is going to be going nuts. Louisville's going to make threes, and they're going to win the game.
Well, see, that's the funny thing, too. I'm going to ride that, too. I know Peyton and I will be in the building. Him being a lifelong Louisville fan, I do hope he's able to have a happy moment again and have some joy on that. And just strategic-wise, I think that they will speed Tennessee up. I think a huge start. Imagine the first 4 minutes they come out and put a 13-2 run to start the game. I don't know if Tennessee – well, I don't know if Tennessee has the horses to come back. Like, if Louisville can jump them early – I don't know if that Tennessee's pace this early in the year can allow them to come back. I like Louisville. There's going to be segments in this game we talked about. Tennessee goes on a cold streak, can't put the ball in the bucket, and Louisville finds their rhythm. I think Louisville not only covers like Trevor said, but I'm with you, Coach. I think Louisville – Peyton gave a bank on it that was kind of out there the other day. I will say this. Louisville wins, and they hit 13 or more threes. I think that's their key to victory in that game. Also, tomorrow on Saturday, we got another big-time clash, top 25 teams, when you have Baylor playing Arkansas. We talked about Baylor getting their doors blown off against Gonzaga. I don't know, Coach. Do you believe in the rebound theory? Where if you lose –
Coach Calipari right now is wishing that was not the score.
Yeah, well, see, that's the first thing I thought of when we were watching that late Monday night, early Tuesday morning out in the West Coast there. And they got their ass beat. I was sitting there thinking, I was like, man, Cal has to hate this. He has to hate this because Drew, they're going to have that team ready. They want to show the nation that they're not that bad. They just had a bad night. And it's in Dallas, so you might as well say it's a home court game for Baylor, even though it's quote-unquote neutral. And then Arkansas coming off the win, but they didn't look great. Shout out our friend, head coach over at Lipscomb, Lenny Acuff. I thought his team was well prepared, really forced Arkansas into some stuff that they didn't want to play, slowed the game down. Baylor's a completely different opponent. Baylor, take away the Gonzaga game, Baylor guards are really good. They want to push the tempo. Defensively, obviously, they know they got to be better. But the thing that concerned me about Arkansas the other night is the same thing I said in the magazine and the same thing I've said since the summer. Super athletic, super talented, a lot of NBA dudes on that roster, a lot of dudes who could be all SEC, maybe even all American. Tremendous backcourt. They can't shoot, coach.
Yeah.
Boogie Flame's the only guy. Nelly Davis would be the other one. But if you gave DJ Wagner or some of these guys 10 threes, the likelihood of them making more than 2 are not great. I think Baylor packs it in at some point. I wouldn't be surprised to see Scott go to the zone and dares Arkansas to beat them from deep, and I don't think they can. I've got Baylor winning convincingly in this one in Dallas tomorrow.
I think it is an interesting spot for Arkansas, obviously, after what happened. And you know that Baylor's too good and too talented to probably play like that twice in a row. So it's just the fun of these early seasons. But think about Baylor. They scheduled Gonzaga and Arkansas
Loaded
out of the gate. I mean, credit to Coach Drew for doing that. And even if he comes out of it 0-2, as long as they play better and it's better showing, in Arkansas actually maybe does make threes or do things that we don't think they can do to win the game, he'll feel better about it. But I anticipate them playing very well. I think they'll win the game too.
Yeah, and by the way, as you can see on the screen, this is one of our friends here. He covers a lot of wrestling, college basketball, a lot of sports out in the North Carolina region where Trevor is from. Shannon, what's up, my guy? We've been on their radio show before covering college basketball. Trevor will hit you up. He'll get you the link to the magazine. But yeah, I mean, I love these Baylor guards. We've talked about it. Arkansas's got really good guards, but they've got to prove they can shoot, coach. You know this. If your teams even smell that you can't shoot the ball, they're going to dare you to shoot, and that's not how Arkansas is designed to play. They're just not.
And I like another intriguing matchup.
Yeah, I like Baylor in this game, and I don't know what the line is. I don't have my phone on me. I'd imagine it's probably Baylor 2 or 3 points, maybe.
2.
I've got them 2. Well, I've got Baylor covering. I may even do an alternate spread on that where Baylor's like covering 6.5 or something. Wow. I really like Baylor on the bounce back in Dallas. Yeah.
I'll stay away from all that stuff, but I'll give my picks.
And then how about this colossal matchup tomorrow night? Later tip. I think the tip is like 9 Eastern. I think I'd have to look that up again, but it's a later tip in the evening for those Saturday night folks that want to watch something besides college football. We've got 2 teams that are inside the top 15 in the AP and the ECB top 25. 2 teams that could each win their respective conferences and what we think are the 2 best conferences, college basketball, and 2 teams that in opening night absolutely steamrolled their opening opponents. Coach, you text us when Auburn was on that 38-6 run to open the second half against a good Vermont team who had just beat a good UAB team to open the season. We were all just like, what in the hell is going on? Auburn is the real deal. I have them finishing second in the magazine to Alabama and SEC. But this team, Bruce Pearl has found the route or the right combinations. Janai Broom, an All-American, potentially All-SEC kind of guy. You look at guys like I write about him in the magazine. I watched film on Todd Pettiford, a highly touted freshman coming in, and I thought he could be the next coming of Rob Dillingham this year. Shifty, explosive, can go get his own, and leading the line for the Auburn Tigers, a freshman. JP Pegues coming in from Furman. They've got dudes on dudes on dudes, and they beat the hell out of a good Vermont team. Yep. And they did it with so much style. I love this Auburn team.
I mean, first of all, Vermont gave me my bank on it, so I did go 1 for 1.
There we go, yeah.
So I got that one, and then I saw they were down 57. I think it was 84-27 when I texted you.
Crazy, yeah.
And that's just absurd. I mean,
27 was the biggest lead.
I mean, Vermont's good. They weren't doing that to a D3 team or an NAIA team or a warm. I mean, so yeah, obviously that's a scary score. But the they're running into something different now. Saturday night.
Well, you know all about it. You know all about that Houston team over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
You know all about Kelvin Sampson's style. Tell us what to expect from Houston this game.
They are as impressive of a team doing cohesively what a coach and a culture wants to do as any group you'll ever see, if that makes sense to everybody.
Completely, yeah.
They have complete buy-in. He recruits to what works for them, him, and their kind of that system / culture they've created. He won't recruit guys no matter who they are, how good they are, if they don't fit and can't be coached by him. He's incredibly demanding on them, and he's also incredibly loving, and mentor to them as well as a person away from the court. I just have incredible respect for Coach Sampson and what they've done there. It's just been amazing to watch, and I'm right here watching it, and we've played them almost every year minus COVID. So if you're going to beat them, like, you have to be so prepared for the most physical game you're ever going to play. And then you still have to be able to make shots and do it for 40 minutes. That's just the challenge of it. And you also probably need to have, and Auburn does, have multiple pros, because you're not beating them with just average guys. You're not.
Well, I mean, you look at the balance. So, like, we talked about similarities. I mean, we talked about Auburn was up on Vermont 84-27. The biggest lead that Houston got was 97-39. So within, a couple points here and there of being the exact same type of game. And the balance. Like, they don't have a guy this year. I mean, I think LJ Cryer could be. Like, if you talked about, like, one guy from Houston this year being like a 20-plus scorer per night, it would be LJ Cryer, I believe. But they also don't necessarily need it to win games. Like, you look at their balanced scoring. They played, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 guys. Everybody scored at least 4 points or more. 8, 5, 14, 16, 7, 15, 10, 7, 4, 7, 4. Like, that's incredible balance. And I know Jackson State's ranked 324 at Gen Bomb. It doesn't matter. When you have dudes and a team that can do that to another D1 opposition, that's incredible balance. That's incredible depth. And I think that's how Houston will win games this year.
They don't care who the other team is. It doesn't matter if it's Jackson State or Auburn. They're playing the same way. It is you have to physically find a way to stay with them on the offensive glass. Don't let them go on big runs, and take care of the ball. And you have to make the open ones, because you don't get many. You can't miss the open shots against them, because they just limit how many open ones you get. And but like I said, Auburn's got a ton of great players and also a great coach themselves. And so this is a great college basketball game on Saturday night.
Well, like, Houston forced 12 steals. They forced 21 turnovers overall, 12 of them being steals. We talked about live ball turnovers. Houston, you definitely don't want a live ball turnover against. Milos Uzan had 8.7 boards, 10 assists, just missed the triple-double. Oda Boot, 4 steals to lead the team. Incredible from one of their starting backcourt members there. LJ Cryer, we talked about 16 points. Houston, one of the things I think year over year, and I don't think they're ever a bad shooting team. Again, you would know more than anybody, having actually faced them. But I think something that always gets them in trouble, especially in, say, a tournament, is we know their defense, their physicality is great, but I think the scoring options, kind of like Tennessee in a way, the way they're built, is they go on shooting, like cold shooting slumps at times. But in this game, 12 of 20 from three-point line is as efficient as you could possibly get.
Yeah.
Will they make 12 of 20 and shoot 60% all year? No, they won't. But if they can start hitting close to 8, 9, 10 a game, somewhere around there, they're going to be almost impossible to beat. That would be like their one weakness, and I'll use weakness in air quotes. One weakness, if they can start stretching it from deep consistently, good luck. Good luck against them.
That's a fact.
I mean, they're that good.
They're good. They're Final Four national championship level good.
Auburn, going back to them real quick, we talked about Janai Broome, 12 points. He only had 7 rebounds in this game. We know he's capable of much more, but he only played 22 minutes. Didn't really have to play a whole lot.
Yeah.
JP Pegues had 8 in his debut for him. Denver Jones is a guy. I mean, I thought he turned it on last year, like really big as a transfer. He's
coached
a big
against him. At
Say
FIU.
again?
I coached
Oh,
again.
yeah.
He was at FIU.
Yep. Came in as a shooter, 16 in the opening night game, had 2 3-point shots. We know he's a guy that could be somebody who can stretch the floor for Auburn. Miles Kelly coming in from Georgia Tech. Everybody loved this transfer for a reason. He led them in scoring 21 points, 7 of 9 from 3. 7 of 9. Auburn, under Bruce Pearl, you look at his team that went to the Final Four in 2018, led by incredible guards, played a fast-paced style of game, and they shot the hell out of the 3-ball. You look at his teams that won the SEC regular season a couple years ago. Fast teams led by guard. Now, they did have a kind of a unicorn there. Oh, man, I can't think of his name, the 6'10 kid. India. I can't. Jabari, yes, Jabari Smith. But all Bruce Pearl's really good Auburn teams, to say that, play the same way. They have incredible guards, they're incredible playmakers. They play really fast, they're tough, and they shoot the hell out of the 3. And it looks like he's got another one of these teams right now. So it's prediction time. When you look at this coach, 2 teams that can play defense, 2 teams that are experienced, 2 teams that can go on spurtability type runs for various reasons. Auburn, I think, wants to try to push the pace against Houston. You don't necessarily want to play half court against them if you don't have to. Houston wants to grind them out and out-tough them. When you look at this game, who wins and why?
Well, I will tell you this. There'll be very few games. I don't know how many games Houston's going to play this year. 36, 38. It depends how deep they go, right?
40 if they go all the way, yeah.
So there will be very few times on anything I say where I pick the other team. So I think they'll win tomorrow night, one way or another, low scoring, high scoring, whatever it is. I think they're going to have another really big year. They're not going to lose many. And to beat them, you have to play a really, really good game, and you have to make those open ones when you get them. And if Auburn does, they'll give themselves a chance. If they struggle doing that, boy, it can go wrong in a hurry against the Cougars. So I'm taking Houston.
Well, that goes back to our point with turnovers. Houston had 12. I know it was Jackson State, but as far as steals go, I mean, they're 24 to 21 overall. But live ball turnovers, Houston's probably one of the worst teams in the country that you want to turn the ball over against. And they're so good, Coach. You know this better than anybody. The way Sampson has them play defense, they're physical. They get up after you, and they play passing lanes really well. They almost bait you into, hey, this guy's open on the wing, and you go to throw a kind of a lazy pass because you think he's open, and boom, there they go with it. They're off to the races. Auburn has to value the basketball, and I think they've got to hit threes in this game. I know I keep saying the three-point line for those who maybe have never heard me talk, but the three-point line is so prevalent in today's game that it's important in games like this. Yep. Auburn's got to shoot well. I want to see Tahad Pettiford step on the gas as that big-time freshman, especially if I'm going to call him this year's Rob Dillingham potentially. I really like his game. But on the other end, Coach, Houston's got to guard guys like Miles Kelly. They've got to try to stop Janai Broome, and they don't necessarily have the size that they've had in years past. This could be a big-time Janai Broome. If he wants to be in that National Player of the Year conversation, this is a good game to go out and get you 25 and 15 or something crazy, 25 and 12 to kind of put your stamp like, hey, man, this is my year to do it.
If he does that, Auburn will win. I think he's going to have a hard time having a big game.
Houston's always really good, too, at getting you in foul trouble. The way they go downhill, the physicality and finishing through. I think this game's close to call because they're both so good.
No, they're great.
I'm normally with you. It's hard to pick against Houston. I like the pieces Auburn has, and I think I trust their shooting just a little bit more. I think the best player on the floor probably is going to be LJ Cryer for the majority of the game. If we get good LJ Cryer, I think he'll be the best player on the floor. But I think overall depth and the shooting, I think Auburn has more options to shoot than Houston does at this moment in time. Give me Auburn in a very close one. This could come down to final possession. Whoever has ball probably wins game. I think it's going to be an outstanding college basketball game.
All right.
We got a few minutes here before we round it out. Let's talk about some other stuff real quick, Coach. I don't know if you got a chance to check my cats out in the official debut of Mark Pope the other night, but Wright State, I told you guys I was a little bit worried about it because, they're projected to have the Horizon Player of the Year, Brandon Knoll. it's a new team. How do they perform when Rupp Arena is actually full? Man, they look good. That offense is a thing of beauty. I will never get old of watching Mark Pope offense at the University of Kentucky. I promise you that.
Yeah, no, he's gonna do a really good job. I told you that. I thought it in the preseason. They seem to be a confident group. Like I told you, the leadership, Lamont, I know what he brings. They're going to be a lot of fun. They're going to score a lot of points. They're going to win a lot of games, and I think you're going to have a lot of fun watching them do it.
Hey, we got to tell our guy Lamont though, he's got to make layups because
he will.
He got on fast breaks. He would jump the lane or pick somebody's pocket, and he went up, nobody around him, and doinked the layup like 3 times. I'm like, Lamont, bro,
that's the last thing you need to worry about. He'll be all right.
Otega Owe was phenomenal. Like you talk about a dude poised for a breakout year, 21 to lead the way, 3 of 3 from the 3-point line. How about Kobe Bryant? People were kind of worried about him because, exhibition games, he couldn't hit nothing. The dude's the nation's best 3-point shooter from a year ago. Shot almost 50%. And, well, because he don't hit in exhibitions, of course it's going to carry over. All he did was come out and go 4 for 4 from the 3-point line and put up 18 points.
He's going to thrive. He's going to thrive.
Oh, my God. He hit a 3-point shot. He was feeling himself. He hit a 3-point shot where Kirk Kriisa dropped a dime to him, had a potential layup. The defender slid over. He looks at the Kobe kind of in that right wing corner area. Kobe catches, lets it go, turns around and starts talking to a fan because he knew it was going in. Beautiful no-look moment.
The Steph Curry effect on our youth.
I know. But no, I'm with you. Kentucky plays Bucknell tomorrow. I don't think Bucknell will give them much of a game. I think all signs are leading to Duke. Speaking of Duke, they struggled early on there. They struggled in their opening game against Maine before pulling away and getting a 96-62. I don't know if you got to catch them with the freshmen, Cooper Flagg, Con Keipel, all those guys. But if you got to watch Duke, your thoughts on kind of how they handled their debut.
I followed the score a little bit. I didn't see much of the game, and I just was a slow death there. Eventually making it ugly, and when they win by 36.
Yeah. 34.
So, 34. So it wasn't crisp and clean, but there was nothing of concern there. A lot of exciting times ahead for those guys, and Cooper Flagg's going to have some monster games here. Just a matter of time.
He's ridiculous. He pounded one he did something that a 6'9", 6'10" dude shouldn't be able to do. Like, he's a freak. And I mean that in the best possible way. Yeah. For our Indiana folks, real quick, the Hoosiers opened up Wednesday night. They played SIU Edwardsville. I thought they looked okay. Like, I didn't think they particularly were dominant or anything, but I thought they looked solid. They got an 80-61 win there, pulled away late. But the story of the Hoosiers this year is Mackenzie Mbako, 31 points. 4 or 5 from the 3-point line. That kid is showing finally why he was a 5-star freshman coming into last year. He's the guy. If Indiana has a special year, Mackenzie Mbako will have more performances similar to this. Miles Rice was solid with 11. Malik Renew was good. Umar Bala, 15. What I want to bring up just real quick on that, I thought there was times where he was off the floor and they moved Malik Renew to the 5 and went a little smaller. They looked better on offense. I don't know what that says, but I thought they looked better going smaller. But Indiana gets an opening night win. 3-point shooting still a concern. 6 of 16. I don't think they're taking enough. Obviously not making enough. They got to get that figured out if they want to win the Big Ten this year. They have to. Yeah. It's the modern game. They have to. But good opening night win for them. Coach, unless there's any other thing you want to bring up from opening week here.
Well, there's just one thing we have to point out in individual performance. We can't not talk about Ryan Kalkbrenner.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Just an absurd 20 of 22. Just a once in a lifetime performance for him. And I saw it compared back to Walton's numbers in that championship game against Memphis in 70, whatever. Just an incredible 49 points on 20 of 22 is just amazing. So I had to point that out for him. That kid's just a great, great player. He's been for years, and Creighton's going to be a problem because of him.
Well, no, that's a great shout, actually. 36 minutes, 49. He hit 2 of 2 from 3-point line. If you're a Creighton fan, that's a great sign, because now you get your 7-1 center All-American that can step out and shoot. You're talking about opening that floor up even more for a great offense. I mean, just incredible. 49 on opening night, coach. He's averaging 49 points a game. It's nuts. 11 rebounds to boot, 3 blocks. But how about his teammate, Stephen Ashworth? Kind of came under some fire last year.
He did.
Not being maybe as good as they thought he would be coming from Utah State. But he's out to prove the real Stephen Ashworth. 25. He made 17 of 17 free throws.
Wow.
He got to the free throw line a hell of a lot in that game. But good shout on Ryan Kalkbrenner. I want to see them. They've got a couple what should be wins coming up before they have to play Nebraska.
And my last one is Penn State plays again tonight. My shout out for my guy, Coach Rhodes, hoping to get to 2-0, and I'm good to go.
There we go.
Great.
There we go. Josh. Yep. Great show. Coach won't be with us on Sunday for episode 193, but he will be back next week when we return. We got Champions Classic coming up. We got all that stuff preview on Sunday. Coach, congratulations from all of us yet again, being inducted into the Pennsylvania, what is it? Pennsylvania Athletic Hall of Fame? Is that what it is?
Central Pennsylvania Athletic Hall of Fame.
Central Pennsylvania Athletic Hall of Fame. We're very happy for you, and we can't wait to catch you back, because when you come back, we'll have Champions Classic to review. Hopefully Kentucky beats Duke, but if not, we get to talk about all that. And so we got a lot, but thank you guys. I know it's weird on a Friday afternoon. Thank you for tuned in. Thank you when you go back and watch us. Leave a like, subscribe to the YouTube and all that fun stuff. But until episode 193, we will catch you guys down the road.
Enjoy the weekend. Enjoy the hoops.